Welcome everyone to What the Force, and welcome to the last episode for a while of Once Upon a Time in the Outer Rim. And joining me for all of these episodes is my good friend, Alex Kane. Welcome back, Alex.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
We have Chapter 7 of the Book of Boba Fett, In the Name of Honor, which was written again by Jon Favreau and now noted in IMDb, Noah Clure, and directed by Robert Rodriguez. Before we get into the show, I just want to say I'm sorry for how late this episode is coming out. It unfortunately had to be delayed for personal reasons. My family is going through a significant life change. We are doing much better than we were last week, and as a result, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus, probably until April, just to get everything good. I guess that's all I can say. But I'm really excited to talk about this episode and dig into it. Just to let you know, Once Upon a Time in the Outer Rim talks about all of these Outer Rim shows from a mythical and connotative perspective. So that's talking about things from, their inspirations as well as sort of some of what it means. Let's dig into the summary.
The finale opens with Fett and Fennec surveying the ruins at Garsa Fwip's sanctuary, where a bomb was set off in last week's episode. Garsa is apparently dead, so with the bar gone and little help on the way, Mos Espa's people are its last true sanctuary. Scad and Drash of the Mods gang urge Fett to stay and fight in the city rather than retreating to the palace. Din is confident Cobb Vanth and the people of Freetown will come to their aid because the Mandalorians don't yet know that Vanth's been shot. At night in Mos Eisley, Cad Bane meets with the Pikes, whose leader confirms it was they who slew Fett's Tuscan tribe. And even Bane is taken aback by their ruthlessness. Pragmatic, says the head Pike. Cowardly Mayor Mok Shaiz is in hiding with the syndicate, but pleads for minimal violence. He says he never authorized the bombing at the bar. In a refreshingly swift payoff, R2-D2 delivers Grogu to Peli Motto in an X-Wing, and Peli's pit droids serve the kid a feast of fat, glistening worms. Dung worms, I think they're called. When daylight returns to Mos Espa, Boba's Gamorrean's guards, Chrysanthemum, and the Mods spread out across the city to keep an eye on the three crime families. Cad Bane, meanwhile, approaches the bar to confront Boba. Bane tells Fett he paid Marshal Vanth a visit, so reinforcements may not be coming after all. Boba should simply allow the spice trafficking in Mos Espa to continue if he wants to avoid further bloodshed. I will only negotiate with the head of the Pikes syndicate, says Fett. You mean the one that massacred your Tuscan family and blamed it on a speed bike gang? Fennec warns Boba that now isn't the time to fight. He's emotional as well as outnumbered. Elsewhere, war hits the streets as the three houses draw weapons and break their neutrality pact. Trandoshans dogpile Chrysanthemum, Klatooinians throw the Gamorreans off a cliff, and the Mods get pinned down by blaster fire, at least till Fennec shows up and saves their skins. Outside the sanctuary, the mayor's former major domo greets the Pikes and delivers a message Fett typed into a data pad. You will leave this planet and your spice trade. If you refuse these terms, the arid sands of Tatooine will once again flourish with flowered fields fertilized with the bodies of your dead. As the Pikes draw their guns on the Twi'lek, Fett and Din soar through the air with their jetpacks and open fire. They fight back to back on the ground as the Syndicate forces press the attack. When they look as though they may fall, the people of Freetown arrive in an armored land speeder. You didn't have to come here, Mando tells Freetown's barkeep. Yes, we did, says the Weequay. The planet deserves better. The Mods return to the bar, followed by Chrysanthemum, who's badly wounded. Boba promises him a long soak in the Bactapod before taking off to get something he left back at the palace. The Syndicate's hired guns eventually retreat, and a pair of Scorpionic Annihilator droids, heavily shielded, march on Fett's gathering of warriors. Peli shows up in a pedicab amid the chaos, and Mando's reunited with Grogu. The child is wearing the chainmail top Din sent him. Just as the pair of war machines appear indestructible, Fett returns astride his Rancor, which slaps the droids around and damages their shields. Once the first Scorponok is weakened, Mando manages to slip inside its energy shield and deliver a blow with the dark saber. But then it rears up to crush him, and Grogu uses the Force to hold it back just long enough for Boba's Rancor to tear the machine to pieces. Then they dismember the second droid and mop up the rest. Cad Bane shows up yet again, one final card for the Syndicate to play. The bounty hunter sprays his flamethrower at the beast, which causes it to throw Fett from his saddle. "I've known you a long time, Boba," says the gunslinger. "One thing I can't figure. What's your angle?" "This is my city," Fett says. "These are my people. I will not abandon them." "Like the Tuscans?" They draw, and Cad Bane blasts Fett, who answers with a burst of his own flamethrower. Cad pins his old protege down, removes his helmet, and aims his blaster. "Consider this my final lesson. Look out for yourself. Anything else," Bane says, "is weakness." But it's Fett's tribe, dead or not, that ultimately saves him. He draws his Gatterfy stick, knocks Bane to the ground, and punctures his chest. As Boba's Rancor rampages through the city, Mando tries and fails to tame it. The beast bites down on Din's helmet and then tosses him aside. So Grogu marches into the street and stares the monster down. The child raises a hand and uses the Force to touch its mind, soothing it, lulling it to sleep. Grogu strokes the creature's snout and falls asleep beside it. While the Pikes, the other crime lords, and the mayor discuss their next move, Fennec arrives at their hideout and executes them all. Later, Fett and Fennec walk the streets of Mos Espa as life returns to something like normalcy. The city's people pay their respects to the daimyo, offering him fruit as well as kind words. But Boba feels his reign is over. He and Fennec aren't meant for this life. In a mid-credits scene, we find the surgeon who resurrected Fennec earlier in the season. He's preparing to operate on someone in Fett's old Bacta tank. Cobb Vanth, Marshal of Freetown.
Oh boy.
Long one.
Yeah, no. This is good. Overall, Alex, did you like this episode?
I think that I did. It sort of had a low bar to clear after the kind of weirdness of it's sort of like watching 5 episodes of like WandaVision, and then you get an episode or two that's like completely about Doctor Strange or something, and so it felt good to kind of get back to like, oh, here are the mods and here is like Boba's whole thing, and we got our kind of crowd pleaser moments of the Rancor and just things that we were kind of hoping to see more or less felt resolved. So yeah, it was satisfying. I had a lot of little quibbles, but like for the most part, it kind of ended up, being, the Book of Boba Fett and not sort of like this weird lopsided thing that it was for a little while.
How did I feel? Oh my goodness. This felt incredibly Shakespearean / also like a classic Western movie, like showdown, or like, hey, everything's hitting the fan finally in a mafia movie, right? Mm-hmm. It felt like all of those 3 things together, like especially with the families, mm-hmm. Fighting in the city and, different alliances changing. It felt like Mos Espa could have been Verona from a Shakespeare perspective. Betrayals, no, it just feels like because of the detour that we had with Mando and such a focus on Grogu's last episode, the steam of caring about what happens in this city felt maybe like it didn't have enough to make this episode truly what it deserved to be, which was very climactic and very epic, right? This was a very epic episode, and in exclusion, super enjoyable for me. I really loved it. I just kind of have to view things from like how the story was told, and the rising action didn't rise together.
Yeah, they lost a lot of momentum and tension for sure. Yeah. And then Yeah, so we sort of forget what the stakes are by the time stuff starts to hit the fan. It gets to be a little, I don't know.
Yeah. And we start out in Garce's ruins, and my husband, who before he even saw the movie, saw the episode, he asked me if his good boy Max Rebo was killed in the bombing, right? And it's very apparent that Max Rebo is not in the bar that night, not in the sanctuary that night. And it bothers me that all of kind of the favorite male toys survive, but the lady ones don't.
Yeah.
Garsa Fwip was so cool. Such a cool character. And I really hate that it seems like there's a precedent just to kill women.
Yeah.
And when we found out what happened to Fennec, that Ming-Na Wan basically had to beg to have her character come back from the dead, it just makes me what are you guys doing? I feel like this is genuine criticism that needs to be made.
Yeah, when I saw the tweets about her interview where she said that, I was like, if the original plan was for her to have died at the end of chapter 5 of Mando, that's appalling. What? So many people were hurt and offended when she quote unquote died in episode 5. And I was like, you guys really think she's dead? There's no way she's dead. And apparently that seems to have been the original plan. And that's disgraceful. Yeah.
And it kind of seems like that's what happened to our Tuscan warrior. And it seems like that's what happened to Garsa Fwip. And so femme-coded women don't get to survive in the Star Wars universe. This is a big problem. This is a big problem with the creators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they need to fix this or give up the reins.
Yeah. It's a big problem in media in general where
they fridged her.
Yeah. She did not get to have her big moment at all. They built her up and then she just never got to shine. And then
every woman in the Mandalorian universe is now going to be used to advance a male plot. If that's where we're at, I mean, I'm not welcome here.
It's very strange when, the female character that has the sort of best arc in the Mandalorian is the one whose official name is Frog Lady. And then everybody else is just kind of furniture. It's bad. And Fennec, maybe less so, but yeah.
Fennec's been given way more, but still she was sidelined.
Oh, yeah.
In this season, because I don't even know if they really thought about having her. It could have been anybody really that fulfilled that role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is one moment that I do believe adding Fennec in was a huge success in this. So we'll get to that. But
sure.
It just it hurts that this just hurts from a story perspective. I have nothing else to say. It just is not great.
Yeah. A lot of death that doesn't need to happen in Star Wars.
It just feels like patriarchal bullshit.
Yeah.
At this point. Anyways, let's move on. The Pikes meet with Bane, which we get a ton of exposition on. We had questions. Are the Tuscans really dead? Oh, they are dead. The Pikes confirm it. They're, Bane is a badass looking guy. Again, we get another room of characters that are dolls again, right? There's nobody physical in the room.
Oh, you mean the Aqualish and all those and the Pikes?
No, because we get the mayor and we get Cad and we get the Pike leader.
Mm-hmm.
And this room was very successful from what they were doing. I think that it's because of the voice acting that it is successful. So we get Corey Burton, of course, and we get Robert Rodriguez acting the mayor, and of course the Pikes delivery. But having the genuine voice actors behind the puppetry of the dolls, because effectively that's what we're doing, right? We're making an animation but live action, and like, this is to my Luke point. We need
Mhm.
genuine voice actors to deliver genuine performances. And this was
Mhm.
successful for me.
Yeah. I mean, I really like what Burton's done and what all the sort of like puppeteers and the stunt people have done for sure.
Yeah.
I'm still with you on loving the mayor. He's fun.
He's like, I was mad when he got killed. I was like,
Yeah.
no. But we didn't, it just confirmed for us what the plan was, how bad the Pikes were. Just a reminder, the Pikes are bad, okay? They killed the Tuscans. You liked the Tuscans. Yeah, but that was like 4 episodes ago, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels like the pacing of this whole season with the payoffs, although I was invested in the moment, like, did it have the emotional impact because of the timing and the pacing? Probably not. There's probably a different way to edit this whole season that would have helped.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been watching other shows and thinking about like, how do you make, the conflict and the danger feel real? And I feel like the Pikes are just not established enough to really, like, I'm not afraid of the Pikes. You know what I mean? Like, you've touched on that before, and I kind of like didn't quite get what you were saying at the time, but yeah, like now that we've sort of seen the whole season and taken a step back, it's like they're just not scary when you've got Mando and Fennec and Boba and Black Chrysanthemum.
They don't seem intimidating at all.
Yeah. Cad Bane does, but we don't see him until the end of the penultimate episode.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
weird.
like the threat that they offer to the society in the town is spice, which we actually get a genuine answer from Boba, is that spice kills people. He said that. So spice is bad, and he's worried about the town folk. He doesn't want spice in the city. He doesn't want to sacrifice any people to this drug. But I don't feel the weight of this conflict. It doesn't feel like it matters. And that's a disappointment.
Yeah. It's almost like he's playing with The Godfather there, because like The Godfather is a very famous movie that is sort of like the emblematic crime film where like they bring up like, would you be angry and if we got into the narcotics business? And like here in the real world, we know what narcotics are. We know like heroin is really bad. Like we know that meth is bad. But in the Star Wars universe, the average person watching Disney Plus on their couch doesn't know the specifics of like spice and what it does. And
yeah, and we haven't seen anyone die of a spice overdose or somebody end up like needing medical attention because of spice. We haven't seen anything to do with why is spice that bad. And this is a weird argument to make, but it just feels like the stakes just don't matter. And I know spice is bad. Like that's hey, spice is bad. Running spice, bad people do this. But it just does not feel like anything matters. And I know that the Pikes killed people we love, like Garza and the Tuscans. And that's what is supposed to be drawing on our heartstrings to say, Boba's in the right and he's doing the right thing, fighting and standing against them. But we took a break. We had an intermission. We lost all of that force behind those actions.
Yeah.
That's the point of doing the show this way. And you have to suffer the consequences. So it ends up kind of being fine, I guess. In Exclusion, loved the episode. With the season, it's awkward and kind of not as satisfying as if maybe we didn't have the Mando episodes. If it was closer and there was only 5 episodes of Book of Boba Fett or 6 episodes of Book of Boba Fett and like an optional episode to watch what Mando's doing. Or just Grogu returns, and then in the Book of the Mandalorian season 3, we see what happened behind the scenes and how he returned. That would have been fine. I just feel like it lost all of its momentum because of these choices. All right. Yeah. Now the show gets way better because R2-D2's in it. So let's talk about him. So we see the X-Wing. Pally, who is quickly becoming my absolute favorite character in Star Wars, just behind R2-D2. So I had my two favorite characters in the same scene, basically. Yeah. Pally's like, oh, it's the cops, basically. Yeah. Oh, I died. It was so good. And he shows up with Grogu in the little pilot seat, and it's adorable. How'd you feel about this?
That's good. I mean, I like the first kind of worry or question when I was watching this for the first time was like, okay, so Luke Skywalker jumped out of the X-Wing as it was descending, and he's like off and hiding somewhere, and he's going to show up as the Deus Ex Machina at the climax of the episode and save everybody. I totally thought they were going to do that.
They're going to do that 2 times in a row. They only have one trick pony.
I thought they might do that with especially when like Mando and Boba were like back to back and they were like pretty doomed. I totally thought he was going to show up. Was very relieved that he didn't, and that they had faith in their Mandalorian characters and Grogu not to do that. I don't know. I think that the puppetry with Grogu has gotten so good, and I love the sort of meta dialogue of Grogu. That's a terrible name. Sorry about that little guy.
I'm not going to call you that.
Yeah, that's like so what like a certain kind of fan would say, and it just, I don't know, it's very cute, and his sort of puppeted reaction to her saying all that stuff is just, I don't know, he's great. Like and yeah, just the way like R2-D2 is like the villain in that scene, like, come on, let's go, like I need to get him to, I need to get out of here, blah, blah. I'm like, the Uber driver is in a hurry. And she's like, no, like, I'm going to feed him, spaghetti first. Calm down.
Yeah. Like he's a baby and he's been in an X-Wing for like hours. Like, what are you doing?
Baby's got to eat. Yeah. That was so good. She's great. Eat.
I love her. And like, she adds like this genuine, like just concern, like the audience has for Grogu. And she kind of speaks for us in so many ways. Yeah. I would say that it's not outside of R2's character to be frustrated with things taking too long.
Oh, right. Yeah, no.
He's kind of always like frustrated with everything going on.
He's always like doing a beeline to whatever like the mission objective is. Yeah. And then C-3PO's like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not going that way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I've been given a task by Luke. I got to go and do this. I got to go and deliver Grogu. And yeah, Pelly's just like, nah, I'll babysit him. It's okay. But we know R2-D2 left Grogu in the hands of somebody he doesn't even know if he knows. So, R2, we need to have some talking to you.
Yeah.
I have to say that Pelly was not actually listed on the Jedi camp form to pick up Grogu from Jedi camp. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, Alex.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I did some of those summer things when I was a kid. Yeah.
You have to like list everybody who could potentially pick up your kid.
Yeah.
And you have to like show your ID and stuff. So Pelly was not listed as a babysitter or emergency contact.
Yeah. But I guess she was there at the address that he sent him to, so
that's true. Yes,
I guess.
I guess, but I guess she can be considered an aunt now, right?
Yeah,
she would totally take care of Grogu whenever Din needed. She's done it twice now. She's like an official babysitter. He can put her on the emergency contact list now, but she wasn't. That's all. There's some shifty stuff happening. But I did love that, all the droids were really excited to see Grogu. He looked so cute in his little X-Wing. I want a little X-Wing with Grogu in it. I'm a sucker for this. On a side note,
Yeah.
thank you for sending me all those Lego the pictures of the Lego sets for the N1.
Yeah. Yeah, those look cool. They did the N1 and then like Jabba's palace with like Bib Fortuna. So you can come in and kill him and take the throne if you want, I guess.
I like that Peli and Grogu and
Definitely.
BD1
Yeah. Yep.
and Din all have a Lego figure in the N1 like set. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's like $60, I think.
Yeah.
Likelihood of me buying the N1 Starfighter one is pretty high. Yeah.
Same. I love it. And you get
Very
a Grogu and a BD1 and a Peli with your Din.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But then we head back to Bane showing up to confront Boba.
Yeah. And he's got all the knowledge to sort of manipulate him and throw him off his game now with the Tuscan thing. And
yeah.
he knows more about the Tuscan Massacre than Boba does at this point.
Yeah. How did you feel about the execution of that?
I mean, I just feel like we're so far from episode 2, for instance, that it's just like, it's a little weird. And like I said, I wish Cad Bane had been at least in one earlier episode or something, like in episode 1 or 3 even. So it ends up feeling like a little distant. And I like Fennec's role in that scene of like kind of telling Boba like, hey, like he's getting to you, like this is not the plan, you know, let's like sort ourselves out and regroup and try this later and fight on our terms. That was good. Yeah, still really kind of like baffled that the just sort of at the I guess it would have been what, episode 3 or 4, where we sort of like got the off-screen resolution of the Tuscans being slaughtered, but you know, we never really saw like, you know, the female Tuscan warrior's body or any kind of evidence that she's actually gone. And I don't know, it feels unresolved emotionally, even though in our heads we're kind of like, oh yeah, they fucking killed them all. Great. It doesn't feel like there's closure there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm bothered by that. But
I felt like it was very natural how Boba and Bane talked to each other, and actually was a very good execution of larger universe thinking.
Yeah.
So to me, it felt like as natural as Han meeting Greedo in the cantina.
Yeah.
You know, like it just felt like, oh, there's history. We've never really seen that history for Greedo and Han, but we know there's history. And if people were like, wait, Bane and Boba know each other, they could go and watch Clone Wars. They could go and watch like tons of other stuff to see like where their origins were. I feel like that was the most successful execution of that. On a sort of symbolic perspective, it definitely shows that Fennec has balanced out Boba by giving him sort of this rational and like, I don't know, femme perspective, right? Like we got more things to worry about. Like you're being irrational and we got bigger things to worry about. And it really was successful to show how much they are a duo now and balance each other. Yeah.
Yeah. It like, we sort of have complained about early episodes kind of not giving us a lot of their relationship, but ever since she had her sort of resurrection episode, they have had some nice, you know, sort of developments there with, how they complement one another.
Yeah.
We sort of think of Boba Fett as like this, you know, tough guy, blunt instrument, but you know, if you want to be a king, it's not about like, how good are you at going to war? It's like knowing, you know, actually we should probably not go to war at all if we can help it. You know, that's the difference kind of.
Yeah. And like in an archetypical way, he has become a king and she's become a queen. And the point is for her to care about the people and to care about the larger societal problems when he's there being a kick-ass person, right? And it is really interesting to see how their dynamic and relationship was shaped over the season. I still think they should have kissed.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome. Apparently everybody's afraid of everything now. So it is what it is. I do think that they make like the best duo now. They're so good
they're
together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get the call from the mods who earlier had convinced, Boba to care about the city and not hide in his palace. And the mods are like, something's off, boss. Like, something's going wrong. And basically, the other families have betrayed Boba for the Pikes. I liked this reveal. It was really cool. It started to, I don't know, speed things up. But first we had the Major Domo sort of offering Boba negotiation help.
Yeah.
This is a fun scene. I loved it.
Yeah, it's like this is an example of how like they take what we've actually seen established on screen and then play with those pieces like really effectively, where like we know that when Boba says like, oh yeah, like I'll have you negotiate the terms of my surrender for me in a very like
nonchalant way. Yeah.
We know that he's full of shit and that he's actually using him as like a distraction when he says like when he agrees to that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's fun. That's where you get like good tension and suspense of like, okay, like he's got some trick that he's going to play. And that was very satisfying to see. And the Major Domo guy, again, one of the characters who needs the name, as you always say, he desperately needs a name now because he's apparently sticking around. But he's really great in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Much like, is it Sophie Thatcher and Jordan Bolger, the two mods are really great in this episode. Like all three of those actors they get to shine in this episode a lot. But yeah.
And he has this like amazing, like awkward, I don't know. It felt classic comedy in some ways, like how it was delivered, and it felt very old school. And, he just sort of reads the whole thing out from what Boba wrote. And yeah, it was great. And I love that Din reaffirmed he was staying there with Boba,
Yeah. Like the Creed thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
He's like, I suppose you'll be leaving now. That'd be horrible if Din's just like, yeah, man, I think you're screwed. See ya.
Yeah, like peace out. I gotta go and like deal with my depression about my lost son.
Yeah.
No, he was willing to die for Boba, right? So
yeah.
I think it's really important to remember that like this is a detour for both of them.
Yeah.
Like, on the larger story. So they had to complete this, but sometimes it's okay to run away.
Yeah.
But there's kind of a concept that like they can't leave the city worse off than, it started, of course.
Yeah. Otherwise, like, what was Boba doing this whole time? Like, what's the point of the show?
Like, what happened? Yeah, that would have been even worse. We get like sort of the war coming down. We get sort of the, agreement from Fennec to back off and the Major Domo. But we, nick of time, we get the Freetowners arrive after this big Western shootout. And this felt very Desperado to me.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it felt so Rodriguez, all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like Black Chrysanthemums return where he like seemed like, whoa, are we about to like lose this guy? And, it's this sort of, the use of like wounds and like slow motion and stuff to create the drama. That's a very like Rodriguez thing to do. And, no, then he sort of like Boba sort of pats him on the shoulder and is like, good work, buddy. And yeah, I don't know. The mods, it was nice to see them sort of like carrying him and
Yeah.
it's
And
very much like
rescuing.
yeah.
This weird like Isle of Misfit Toys
Yeah.
family that has come together.
Hmm.
I really liked the arrival of the Freetown people, but again, its motivations are like, well, that was convenient a
Yeah.
little bit, you know. They arrive in the nick of time, which is sort of what is expected, but it doesn't feel like people have maybe enough character motivation to be like, yes, I'm going to risk my life for this metropolis city when I'm from like a mining town or like
Yeah.
like an outskirts town. It just doesn't. I don't know. Maybe it would feel. I'm wondering if you cut out the Mando episodes, if like it would feel more like that.
Yeah, like I can see where Vanth getting shot like motivates them to like take action or whatever, but we don't see like a conversation or any hint of a conversation where it's like anybody else really knows what's going on. So you kind of have to assume that the bartender just relays like whatever he heard.
That's
and I
weird.
like the
Yeah. I mean, if they had said Cobb Vanth sent us, but then he
Mhm.
wouldn't be quote unquote on the edge of death or dead, right?
Yeah.
Like again, the motivations are just not clearly said. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel like it would be that much work to be like, Cobb's unconscious, but his last words were, come and protect you, and we're here because of that son, because of that jerk over there who shot him. Like, it's like 3 seconds of a line.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that the bartender from Freetown like shows up again and gets like a bigger role because he was like in
Oh yeah,
season 2, episode 1, and he was really good in that. But it does sort of feel like you have all these like unnamed characters who like show up every so often, and it's just kind of like
who needs names in the Star Wars universe, Alex?
Yeah, it's like not only are they not named, but like is the average viewer going to be like, oh, that's the bartender from Mando 201, like, or is that something
No.
we just realize? I don't know.
I wonder if this is just like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It feels like names are randomly given now.
Oh, Pablo will put it in some book after the fact.
Well, we
that's
apparently
weird.
we need a visual dictionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like those things, but yeah, it highlights a problem that Star Wars has that other media doesn't, which is just like, something like Game of Thrones or whatever. Like they juggle like all these like, million characters. And like, I don't need a visual dictionary to know what people's like roles are, their names. Like I could be like, the Red Woman or so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, like if you're not watching these seasons like back to back, I mean, Mando season 2 happened like 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago, long time ago,
a year and a bit ago.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, I think a lot of this stuff would probably flow better if you're watching like you're like binging them in order, but I don't think most people are, or like I'm not. So if I'm not, then what's that say about other people? Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. And then dramatically, they have the big Western shootouts. They kind of push back the Pikes and kind of the people that are trying to hurt them. And we get the giant war machines that kind of look like destroyers from the Clone Wars era. But they're a specific type of droid, right?
Yeah, so they're called like Scorpionic Annihilator droids. And I guess they were in sort of like Legends because they were like unused concept art from like Attack of the Clones that probably would have been on Geonosis, but I don't think they actually were used because they had all that other stuff they did instead with like the big droids with like the wheels and the I don't know. They had like tons of stuff going on Geonosis, but I think these things were just kind of unused, and so they cropped up in like board games or something.
They're terrifying. This is
Yeah, they
the
really
first
are.
like actual like there's no like the shields were very scary. Destroyers were always very scary because of their shields, and they just keep on going and shooting, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I always found them way creepier than say like the battle droids that had like the arm cannons. I don't know what anything is called. What am I, a Star Wars fan? No. But I always found the destroyers to be the creepiest and scariest. And these guys, because they're so big and so creepy, wow, this actually was a big threat.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
think the design reminded me, I think the third Terminator movie has like really primitive Terminators called like, I don't know, T1s or T10s or whatever the hell. And I think they looked a lot like these. Was kind of like the closest comparison that came to mind. But yeah, they're creepy, and they've sort of got that one big red eye, which is like, always kind of
Very creepy.
creepy when the eye is red. I don't know.
Exactly. And so like everyone's in a panic and running, and we have Peli enter the scene.
Yeah. Grogu's like buried under a blanket or something like that. And
Yeah.
I liked how the pedicab was pretty much identical to the one that like Anakin and Padme used when they were sort of searching for his mother, which is interesting. So, you have sort of Anakin and his mother like separated, like metaphorically in Attack of the Clones. And then here you have Mando and Grogu reunited in sort of the similar kind of imagery. I don't know. It's cool.
No, it was really great. And the reveal and like Grogu, the puppet, like jumping up.
Yeah. It's a very so good.
Yeah. Everything with Grogu is great. I can see why they've kind of made him the face of the franchise now. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cause like he's just, I don't know. I sort of judge these shows based on whether my son will watch them a tiny amount, right? Because he's the age. He's 10, right? So if he's into them, I'm like, oh yeah, this works. Anytime Grogu's on screen, he's in love. So I mean, he's there for him, I guess. And me, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I loved every moment. We hear so much out of Pedro Pascal's voice. The acting is perfect, like the physicality of Mando. So props to the whole team that makes up the character.
Yeah.
We felt that. That was great. And he's genuinely concerned about Grogu in the middle of, oh shoot, I have something to live for. I can't actually just die.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like really important, right? It's harder to live. It's harder to keep on living for somebody else, to protect them and to be with them. Such an important point. So the rampaging robots continue on, and we get kind of, the panic in the streets, right? They're knocking over buildings and they're chasing everybody. And this chase is actually pretty enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff. I also enjoyed there's sort of the country like hunter girl character who shows up and has like the nice sort of conflict or dialogue with Sophie Thatcher's character, and so you get the kind of like like the city slicker country girl kind of thing that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But then they end up sort of like impressing one another. It's kind of like a little bit of like ship bait, maybe. I don't know. It's cool. They have a nice little relationship there where like, look what I can do. Oh, well, look what I can do. That kind of whole thing that happens with people from different backgrounds, but they're both badasses in their own way.
Yeah, that was cute. I agree. Yeah. Then we have, we move on, and this is obviously too much for everybody to handle. And so we get the return of our Rancor.
Yes, which looked awesome. That was great.
Yeah. I did think, like, okay, somebody was playing with their Angkor tour, toy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's good. It works. It just works. It works for me. I don't.
Yeah.
know.
Well, I remember when we watched like Bryce Dallas Howard's episode being like, wow, they like used all their budget on this episode. But, really, I mean, a lot of the stuff they do here is really impressive with the buildings crumbling and just the Rancor kind of wreaking havoc and doing a lot of movement. Like it all looks really great for a TV show. I mean, Game of Thrones had like an ungodly budget and this was on par with like the best dragon scene, I would say.
Yeah. And it felt like this city was in genuine danger with the Rancor and with the Scorponeks. It did feel like this was a meaningful conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a thought too with Grogu where I wondered if maybe him getting in the X-Wing and showing up, like he saves Din's life at one point where he's about to be crushed. And I'm like, I wonder if he had the thing where like Luke and Anakin
vision?
have like visions of the future. Yeah, I wonder if he specifically chose to come because he saw like Din getting crushed by the robot. I don't know. Just a stray thought that I had on the third or fourth viewing.
We don't get too much of Grogu's internal.
Yeah,
thoughts.
We sure don't. Yeah, never.
Yeah, that's okay. But I did like that. They are a good team together.
Yeah.
Right. And we do get that, also Mando seems to be better with his sword when Grogu's around. Oddly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's kind of a callback to Rick's first episode in season 1, the Mudhorn,
Yeah.
Like very similar imagery of the big beast trying to stomp him to death and Grogu lifting it back and
yeah. That and also the Rancor, like when he calms him down later, that was also felt very similar. Like maybe there's a different way than just violence that Grogu can show people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It felt kind of new. Felt a little new. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe a more Force-centric kind of way of dealing with things. Having a little bit of more love for everything in the galaxy.
Yeah.
But like their whole like fight with the Scorponek and how it all resolved. Mando definitely seemed to be better with the Darksaber when Grogu's around because that's his heart. Grogu protecting Mando and kind of like showing his worth in a way is super satisfying. And it was just like such a well-constructed scene. We have the return of Cad Bane.
Yeah, like the convenient timing of like, well, I guess that's my call or what my cue to show back up.
And enter stage left.
Yeah,
Cad Bane. And he flamethrowers him, which causes Fett to fall down, and they have this kind of like, I know you. I know who you truly are. What's your angle? What are you trying to do? And I'm still like a little bit like he's asking the questions that we're asking.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And, it's because Fett has finally learned the importance of community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of, it does things on a symbolic level that we were like really hoping it would do, but it just kind of like scratches the surface. Like it's definitely not like, the end of the journey, the end of the tale by any means, but I
mean, I think this ends up, because of the weight of it, just ends up becoming a puzzle piece to the larger Mandalorian conversation and what this all means for Mandalorians at large, or the Mandalorian plural.
Yeah.
Right? Again, the show should have been called The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and it would have been fine. I still think it would have lost momentum because of the detour we took. I don't think there's a way that you can avoid that. It's going to affect some people, and some people, they won't care about it. But this is the quote unquote moral of the story, kids. This is my city. These are my people. I will not abandon them. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the point. That's what he's learned from the Tuscans. That's what he's learned from the mods. That's what he's learned from having his rancor. That's what he's learned from the loyalty of Din.
Yeah.
That's what he's learned from chrysanthemum. That's what he's learned from the Gamorreans.
And also this idea of like, no one's ever really gone, you know, we sort of carry the people who came before us. And there's that sort of like native idea that objects have like a spiritual significance. And so I really liked that he used the Gatterfee stick to save himself. And then I would say defeat Cad Bane. I don't know if Cad Bane's actually dead, probably, but
and Cad, in so many ways, was like a mentor to him in an antagonistic way. This feels a lot like when Kanan killed the Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah,
like because of their conflict, the Grand Inquisitor was the person that trained Kanan the most in the ways of the Force. Mm. Because of their conflict, Cad trained Boba in who to be. But now he's learned it can't just be me. I'm not enough. I need to also have people around me and people to protect and feel like I'm giving something outside of myself. Yeah. That's the point. Unfortunately, it's just oddly delivered. Like, will people take that away from this? I don't know. I mean, I do, but you know, I look for these things, and then we only get that final line from Cad about like look out for yourself. Everything else is weakness, and then he kills him with the Gafferty stick, which of course is from a dead group of people that were killed by kind of his mistakes. I don't know.
It's kind of echoes too of like Woody Harrelson and Solo, like the trust no one but yourself, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Book of Boba is kind of like about the opposite of that. So you have this sort of dialogue happening.
I mean, it's important, but was it given enough gravitas, and was it delivered in the right way that people are like, yes, the Book of Boba Fett was about community?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the point they were trying to make.
I think that it would have been nice to actually have one more scene where we see like the palace, post Boba with like the mods doing the ruling. You know what I mean?
I think they're setting it up. Well, we'll get to that. I'll tell you what they're setting it up for. But Boba's Rancor starts to rampage through the city, which totally reminded me of King Kong. I saw you wrote a note about that too.
Definitely,
especially when he climbs the tower. Din having the helmet. Again, this felt like toys again a little bit, which is fine because it's fun and cute, I guess. I just don't like it when it's not successful. So, but like I remember my friend had a Rancor and a Boba, and you could stick the head in the mouth.
Nice.
But you can't bite it off, right? Because like he's wearing that Beskar armor, right? But you know, this all comes down to our holy grail of a young Yoda species Grogu standing the monster down, raising his hand and soothing it to sleep, and then falling asleep beside it, which this is showing us there are other ways than conflict. There's other ways than violence. You know, this is a really important lesson too. And we get the most adorable shot in all of Star Wars, I think, to date.
Yeah, it's cute.
It's a little bit like the mouse and the lion, you know.
Oh, the splinter. Yeah,
the splinter in the lion's paw.
Yep.
A little bit like that.
Yeah, it's like this idea of to like help other people and do the right thing is like, it takes a lot out of you sometimes. Like it exhausts Grogu to do this, but like
you
then
can't be
he's
selfless all the time. That's also the lesson.
Yeah. But then he once he sort of soothes the creature, then he trusts it and feels safe enough to sleep next to it. So it's like, you sort of get out of the world what you put into it or whatever, I guess, like that idea of
it's like paying it forward.
Well, like if you're somebody who's like like angry and aggressive, like you're gonna be met with like anger and aggression, I guess. I don't know. Like there's something to that, right? Like
no, I love that. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I love it.
But yeah.
And then we get this like, Pikes trying to plan with the mayor, and Fennec shows up and kills them all in a horror movie type style or thriller, like badass assassin.
Yeah, she's ruthless. She takes them out very efficiently. I thought it was very like Anakin taking out the separatists in episode 3, just kind of like all business.
Yeah, she's scary.
Yeah, she's still mysterious enough that I'm definitely like, dang, like she's so cool, but I am like,
Are you still worried about her motivations?
Well, I'm no longer like, oh, maybe she's working for somebody else too, but I mean, we don't know her as well as we know, even Boba, which is interesting. I think she's fertile ground for a lot more stories that haven't been written yet. So.
Yeah, they could give her a lot more depth in her motivation and what she's doing, and I also kind of like the idea that she's found a home with Boba and is willing to kill anyone who threatens it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. Kind of like she's actually the monster in the relationship and no one realizes it. That's kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like Boba's the gentle soul and she's the monster. That's
like,
kind of
like
cool.
Gone Girl. They're like Ben Affleck. Oh my God, what did Ben Affleck do to his poor wife? And then she's off like bathing in blood and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. There's probably some folklore in this tied to the skeleton woman folklore, which let me see if I can quickly explain what the skeleton woman is. So the skeleton woman is around a fisherman who fishes every day, and one day a skeleton of a woman gets caught up in his net, and he takes her back because he's tangled in her. Right? She's a skeleton. He takes her back. And he can't untie himself. So he brings her back to his like hut and he puts her by the fire and they end up like having the night together. And slowly through the care and consideration that he gives her, she is restored to life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like, what was it? Chapter 4 or something?
Yeah. I actually kind of think that, but she's kind of the monstrous woman that is his wife.
I like it.
Yeah. So like look up that folklore. It's really awesome. And then in the end we have Fennec and Fett walk in the streets and everything's kind of returned to normal. We get these cute like moments with kids and everybody's like bowing to him and we get this like we aren't made for this. All right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring this all the way back to chapter 1 and say this was an interlude, much like Moses hanging out with the sheep herders.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I remember you said, I don't know if it's chapter 3 or 4 or what, but I remember you definitely said that they were sort of play acting. They were performing royalty. Like they weren't sort of eating from the feast. They were just pretending to have a feast. Like they never quite felt settled into it.
And I feel like that was probably the most successful part of Book of Boba Fett, from a realization that this isn't them. Like they haven't found their forever home yet.
Right.
You know, and I really do want to call back to chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land, the parallels to Moses. This isn't Boba's home. He doesn't have a home, much like the Israelites in Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be a Moses-like figure that's going to help the Mandalorians. And so they're just waiting for the call, the literal burning bush to tell him he needs to go back and go and save his people. Moses also got married at that point when he was in his period of time. And then all we get at the end is the mid-credit scene, you know, with the surgeon. And, we're seeing that Cobb Vanth is still alive because he's in the bacta tank. They wouldn't put him in there if he wasn't alive. I suspect he will become the mayor of Mos Espa.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Or like the leader of Mos Espa.
That works, yeah. That would be cool.
When Boba needs to leave, because he's going to need to leave. Obviously, there's Mandalorians to gather.
Yep.
In a King Arthur Knights of the Round Table type way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm wondering how many people are going to be resurrected through this method of the mods. Now it opens up a fun little door for Cad Bane or whoever to come back.
Garsa Fwip.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
We know Max Rebo was out of town because they couldn't blow up Max Rebo without people losing their friggin' minds.
Yeah, it'd be Admiral Akbar all over again. That was the reason The Last Jedi was a bad movie, is because they killed Admiral Akbar. No, anyway.
Yeah, Jon Favreau would have been canceled. He knew that.
Yeah.
Not more than he already is, apparently. But all right, let's talk about the show, because we did do a deep dive into this. But again, there was a lot of action, which, I mean, you can talk about a lot of the action, but from a mythic and meta perspective, action just functions as the struggle to get to the reward. The first 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett were some of the awesomest Star Wars. The second episode was like some of the best Star Wars we've ever seen. The episode with the Mandalorian was a 10 out of 10 Mandalorian episode. Amazing Star Wars. Yeah. I really loved this particular episode. I don't know if we needed the Luke scenes.
Yeah.
I'm still on the fence if we needed them. Ahsoka felt out of character and weird to me, and I feel really uncomfortable with having her actress be on screen in Star Wars. I don't know if any of that was really necessary, or it could have just been explained by R2-D2 through Pally. Like,
yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Luke's character was handled fairly well, given some of the things that we know about, where the story goes and where it, what it needs to do to get there. But yeah, that whole episode just kind of feels like a different show. And even as much as I loved episode 5, it's very tonally different than like the finale. Like the finale feels very, I mean, like you say, action figures, doing fun action figure things. And
that's okay. I'm okay with it. I enjoyed the episode. Sure. It just feels like everything paced weird as a whole season. I feel like if you rewatch this, it feels awkward and odd.
Yeah. I feel like there was a version of this that was way less tonally confused. And they were like, how can we inject more, Grogu and Mando? Maybe not.
How can we inject more confusion into this? No. I mean, I do think that they could have edited it with all of the Tuscan stuff happening first, like literally over 2 episodes, and then done the city stuff all in one. Maybe it was boring. I don't know. Maybe they just felt like, because the best stuff was the Tuscan stuff. And again, it's just how many women and, different cultures do we need to sacrifice to have a man grow?
Yeah. Yep. Again and again. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like the answer. I don't like asking this question.
No, it's not fun. Yeah. When Garsa died, I was just like, she's not dead, right? And then the next episode, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just like, oh no, like she's definitely dead. And it's just, you just go, why? Like, what was the reason? Is kind of the refrain that people use. And I don't know. I don't know why Garsa had to die, or yeah.
No, because we had to
weird.
hate the Pikes enough because they weren't dangerous enough on their own. I have to say that that's terrible.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of crime movies, and like I'm like obsessed with like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and I've been rewatching all my favorite things lately. And I think Star Wars has a problem with like getting into granular detail about like any aspect of sort of the material day-to-day class of the universe. And we got hints of it in this show with like Stephen Root and the moisture evaporator stuff. And that's cool. I feel like George was really good at doing a lot with a little. Like, you know, he would show us like a droid factory, and it's like, oh, well, here's where the droids are made. That's why we're on Geonosis. That's why the Geonosians are involved in this whole thing. They have a planet that's, got ore, and it's really easy for them to manufacture a bunch of powerful droids in a hurry. And that's why we're here. Like in this show, like you're constantly asking questions of like, you know, why the spice, why this train, and it's like, yeah, these things make for cool toys. And we kind of like understand that you're riffing off The Godfather and the themes of like, you know, whatever.
And like Once Upon a Time.
Yeah. Or Lawrence of Arabia, like the things
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah. Like you're riffing off these things, but yeah, it's like, okay, but people are gonna, you know, want the why of things sometimes.
George did that. He absolutely did. Like the Searchers is all over Star Wars, right? Kurosawa is all over Star Wars. You know, John Ford, multiple John Fords, all over Star Wars. But he just used it to get the shortcut to the lens. He didn't use it just for the sake of homage. Right?
Yeah.
And you're right. I look back on how the prequels were created, and it's literally armies of people adding in creative genius. And then George being like, here are these 5 options, George, and we've thought about them, and this is what they mean to us. Like thinking about the design of Darth Maul. How many Darth Maul options were there? Armies of people working on it, and George just got to decide which was the right one. But there was lots of thought behind every decision and people being creative. What happens if the creative army goes from hundreds to 2?
Yeah. Yeah. Like George, he sort of started with the emotional core, and then like had other people to kind of work out a lot of the why and the detail and flesh out the world building.
He went with it. He's like, oh, this makes sense that this would be in this thing.
Yeah. Like he would sort of, it was sort of a back and forth conversation, I think, where, you know, he would sort of take credit for half the idea and then add to it. And they would sort of pass the clay back and forth. And here it's like Jon Favreau's like, here's my thing. And then this Noah Clore guy probably makes it presentable into a good script, you know, from there. And then, but yeah, it's like you don't have a lot of how many people at Lucasfilm or Disney are like telling Jon Favreau when his ideas are bad. You know, the guy who created Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, obviously, I think he's a genius and I love his stuff. He has some really terrible ideas in the writer's room, and his writers would tell him, Vince, that's a horrible idea. You cannot kill the character like that. You can't do it. Like, and Jon Favreau, you know, he made The Lion King, he made Iron Man. Like, who's going to tell Jon Favreau that he's being an idiot when he makes a bad call? I don't know.
When you fridge a woman again?
Yeah. You know,
awkward conversation.
It's awkward. It's awkward. Yeah.
Let me read all your scripts, John. I'll tell you when you're being an idiot.
Yeah.
It just tells me that there isn't enough people writing. There isn't enough people adding to the creation. And it's all because Dave Filoni fears the trust tree. He fears building the trust tree larger than he can control it. But that means that there's going to be a limit to the amount of creation, and it's going to end up feeling like it's stuck in a rut, because it is.
Yeah, on the one hand, it's like thank God for people like Bryce Dallas Howard and Steph Green who can come in and like do amazing things with the box that is Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, you got to give people like that a little room to add, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like we see Robert Rodriguez put his stamp on this series a little bit, but this, like, when people complained about like the little spin and stuff, there's like the little spin that
Oh, that was awesome.
Scad does, it's like, oh, that's like 1/5 of, or 5% of Robert Rodriguez doing his thing. Like, come on, like let creators get weird and put their stylistic flourishes,
and to that point, the Book of Boba Fett episodes, sans the Mandalorian, were weird and psychological and did new things to Star Wars. So I'm just like, I love that. The Bryce Dallas Howard episode, again, 10 out of 10 Mandalorian episode. It just derailed the force of Boba's story, which, with a different title on the title card, maybe wouldn't have been a big deal for some people. I don't know. Overall, I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to rewatch it. It's going to be a little bit of a weird experience again, because I'm like, I just wish this didn't happen this way. I probably will skip episode 6 because I don't find it valuable.
I don't think you really lose much by skipping episode 6, and that's weird. Yeah, because it's such a short series. Yeah. I felt like one of my favorite things in this whole show was the image of the tree in the. I think that's in episode 2 when he's having the
spirit journey.
Yeah, right.
The lizard will guide you. Yes, give it to me.
Yeah, like that image of the tree in the middle of the ocean with all the like creepy little eyes or whatever. Like that's such an amazing nightmare image, and it's like, I hope we see more stuff like that in the future and less of just like, oh, here we are again at the same room in Mos Eisley or whatever. And I feel like stuff like that hasn't paid off yet. There's a lot left for like Boba's story, and the things that this show set up don't feel that resolved in some ways.
Did it feel like this story needed to be told?
Yeah, good question. It feels like a building block of a larger thing, and I don't know that we need these to be separate shows. Like, I don't know. Maybe Ahsoka will feel like a separate show. I know Obi-Wan will, but like, did this need to be separate from The Mandalorian? Probably not. I
think Boba's coming to terms with his essentially spiritual death and the loss of his father, and figuring out that he cannot go it alone in the universe and that he needs a community is a lesson that we could learn and everyone can learn. And if we get that out of it, and anyone watching gets that out of it, that we need each other, right? And Boba himself couldn't just be a solo guy living it up in the universe and doing nothing but destruction. That statement, caring about others, caring about himself, that was important. Do I think that people got that point from the show just by watching it? Probably not.
I don't know. I'll probably rewatch it in the context of like The Mandalorian. I'll probably rewatch like those 3 seasons at some point, sort of in a row, and see how that feels. But
I mean, if you watch it in the context of like, this is one night story, right? And one night story of the Round Table, and this was his own adventure, I think it works really well. Right? If they had framed it more like the Knights of the Round Table, and these are the individual adventures of the Knights of the Round Table, all trying to come together so that they can build Camelot again, i.e. Mandalore, it's dope.
Yeah.
It's just branded wrong.
Yeah, they're trying to like sort of hide their hand and not.
Yeah, why hide your hand? People like to feel like they're right and they're smart.
Yeah.
People like that. People like to be like, I was so smart with all of those breadcrumbs I picked up. I certainly do.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing Fett interact with like Bo-Katan and like some of those characters again and seeing like how big this thing gets for sure.
They're gonna totally have a round table. Like it's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and they're all gonna sit down, and they're all gonna be like, "We need Mandalore again, and we're gonna build this thing." And Din is King Arthur, and Grogu is the Holy Grail.
I wonder if they'll end up like they all get a dark saber. That would be a neat little twist. I don't know. Maybe.
Grogu builds them all lightsabers.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're all fighting over this thing and it's like got all this symbolic power, but like, I don't know if they're all knights. It would be that'd be a cool twist if they all got a dark saber.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Or not.
Yeah. I don't know. I am excited to see how things go. I'm super excited to see Kenobi, which will, of course, be next on the list.
Definitely.
And thank you, everyone, for coming along on our weird journey of the Book of Boba Fett. I hope you enjoyed these deep dives.
Yeah. I appreciate all the questions and comments and stuff. It's been fun.
It has been fun. And Alex, thank you for coming along and doing this with me.
Oh, yeah, anytime.
All right. Where can people find you if they're looking for you online, Alex?
I'm on Twitter at AlexJKane, Kane, and usatoday.com and reviewed.com and various other places.
Thanks, everyone, for checking us out. And we look forward to seeing you back after our brief hiatus, where we will be covering more music topics and metamythical topics in Star Wars, which will be a lot of fun. We got some stuff planned. I got some stuff planned. But I do need a little bit of a break to get my personal situation under wraps. But we will be back before you know it. Take care. Cheers. Thank you for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host. Our music is orchestral music by Christy Carew for What the Force. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We like to thank all our patrons, especially those who love and are obsessed with What the Force. Brad, Melody, Night Huntress in Wild Space, Felicia, How Rude, Anna Perez, Macau Mom, Neil, James, Joe Allen D, Christian Luca, Josh Johnson, Scott C, and Susan. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube or leave a 5-star review on iTunes or other pod apps. It helps people find the show. Check out our other channel on YouTube or other podcast feeds, What the Fiction. You can connect with us on Twitter at WT Force Show, What the Force Podcast on Facebook, or our website, whattheforce.ca, or on our Discord. Links are in the liner notes. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers.